New insight into why UNC's Board of Trustees may have broken with tradition, failing to grant tenure to a prominent journalist joining the faculty. The treatment of Nicole Hannah-Jones has sparked national outrage. The New York Times, Washington Post, and NBC News have all reported the story of the board's decision to deny her tenure. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Gerald Owens.
And I'm Lena Tillett. We've been bringing you developments on the story since last night. An email sent out by the journalism school dean to other professors is shedding new light on this situation. WRAL Sarah Kruger joins us live on campus with the new details. Sarah?
Lena, I found out the faculty here at the journalism school got an email from the dean, and in it she offers her understanding for why Hannah-Jones has not yet been offered tenure. She says it has to do with a perceived lack of academic credentials.
Across the country and right here in Chapel Hill, supporters of Nicole Hannah-Jones expressed outrage at her alma mater's failure to grant her tenure. Protesters gathered outside a Board of Trustees meeting.
For us to deny her the honor that she so richly deserves, it's shameful. It's embarrassing.
Board of Trustees Chair Richard Stevens said the board has not denied the faculty request to give her tenure. Rather, it has not voted on it yet. That breaks with tradition for those who previously held Hannah-Jones' title. All came in tenured.
Hannah-Jones agreed to a fixed-term faculty position.
Stevens says the chair of the University Affairs Committee asked for more time to consider her.
And so it's not unusual for members of the board, or in particular the chair of the committee, to have questions for clarification about background, particularly candidates that don't come from a traditional academic type background.
In an email to faculty, journalism school dean Susan King wrote, "I was told the board was worried about a non-academic entering the university with this designation.
I'm here for my students of color in particular, who have told us they want more faculty of color in our building and on our campus."
Some supporters of Hannah-Jones believe the board's hesitation ties back to her controversial 1619 project on slavery published in the New York Times, for which she won a Pulitzer Prize. The project was criticized by some historians for claiming that slavery inspired the American Revolution. The Times has since changed that wording.
And Hannah-Jones has remained largely quiet on this issue. We have tried to reach out to her to get her perspective as well. Meanwhile, she is set to start here as a professor in July on a 5-year contract. Lena.
Sarah Kruger live on UNC's campus. Thank you. Some see politics at play in the back and forth over Nicole Hannah-Jones. The Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist recently hired at UNC, but denied tenure. WRAL State House reporter Travis Fain writes about North Carolina politics every day. He joins us now. Travis, how much of this decision on a teaching job was made off campus?
Yeah, that's the question, but it's awfully hard to get at. Ultimately, this is a decision the UNC Board of Trustees gets to make. But those are political appointments. And so the question has been, excuse me, how much influence did top Republican lawmakers have on this particular decision to hire a really highly decorated, but also controversial journalist who's made her career writing about race in America? Ultimately, after we sorted through all the rumors, we can't prove much of anything, to be honest with you, but it's clear that faculty at UNC, they take their academic freedom pretty seriously, of course, and many of them feel Republicans over the last several years have really eroded the university's reputation.
Not just in this instance, but in others?
That's right. You know, whether it's political meddling or not, the state universities are governed by political appointees. And one of the first things the legislature's Republican majority did when Governor Roy Cooper won election in 2016, which replaced a Republican governor with a Democrat, was to take away the governor's power to appoint university board of trustee members. And there have been a number of decisions kind of culminating with the back and forth here over Nicole Hannah-Jones that's to feel to some faculty like politics. Now, of course, Republicans will argue that colleges are traditionally bastions of liberal thought. They feel like they need to push back on that sometimes, and there aren't exactly a lot of conservative professors at UNC Chapel Hill.
Travis Fain via Zoom. Thank you so much for that reporting.
An educational program that challenges the way we think and learn about American slavery is creating quite a stir both nationally and at home. Now, elected officials like Senator Tom Tillis are threatening to defund schools that teach it. Nicole Hannah-Jones created the 1619 Project in August of 2019. The essay ran in the New York Times Magazine and last spring won the Pulitzer Prize. If the author's name sounds familiar to you, that's because she's made headlines here in the Triangle, as Matt was just talking about. Hannah-Jones was expected to join the UNC Journalism School, but the Board of Trustees chose not to vote on granting her a full-time teaching position. Some say it had to do with the 1619 Project. WRAL's Keely Arthur is live to explain what exactly is the 1619 Project that's making this so controversial. Keely?
First of all, it's an educational program, and usually lawmakers don't really dictate what is in curriculums. It's usually left to the Department of Education and Public Instruction or the school board. But in this case, things are a little different, and academics are pushing back.
History reflects those who are in power.
But the 1619 Project turns that on its head.
It chips away at the exceptional notions of Americanness.
Created in 2019 for the New York Times, 1619, marking the first year enslaved people were brought to colonial America, says its objective is to reframe history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contribution of Black Americans at the center of the national narrative.
We need to understand what it means for America to have been born in slavery and for that not to have been aberrational, but foundational.
The project was lauded, winning the Pulitzer Prize, and started to be taught in some classrooms. Yet lawmakers like Senator Tom Tillis is threatening to defund schools who teach it, citing inaccuracies.
The inaccuracies of the 1619 Project have been greatly overblown.
In March of 2020, the New York Times printed a change to one of the most scrutinized essays that said slavery was the cause of the Revolutionary War. The updated version said it was a cause.
There's this broader issue.
Ronald Williams, a professor of African American studies at UNC Chapel Hill, believes the criticism has more to do with the fact that the project digs into the country's dark past, including suicide attempts as people made their way to America, children being taken away from their mothers, and unethical medical procedures performed on enslaved people.
These attempts to discredit the 1619 Project are acts of fear because the very American ethos is being put on trial.
So something really important to note is that this is not widely taught in North Carolina schools. The North Carolina Association of Educators wrote to us, it is but one of many supplemental resources that are available to expand students' understanding of U.S. history. But again, this was just created back in 2019, so it could become more a part of public schools down the road.
Keely Arthur reporting live in Raleigh. Thank you, Keely.